Welcome to Das Geek. I was in the market for a cloud storage solution, and as I started going through the various options, I realized really quickly that this market is kind of messy, especially when it comes to the privacy and the features and the cost. So, I wanted to make sure I put a video together for my loyal subscribers out there to help you make the decision on what the best cloud solution is for you. Now, a lot of security experts are going to say never use a cloud solution. You're automatically putting your privacy and everything at risk. There's a lot of security loopholes, etc. And that's fine and good. But the reality is, if you're trying to do some collaboration with folks, if you are wanting to make sure that if you had a fire in your home, you didn't lose something that's irreplaceable, like the memories, photos of your family and friends, then you're going to need some type of storage that's off of your current your home location. And while having your own server secured and encrypted is great, and we will do some videos on that, and is certainly something you should employ as a redundant backup as well within your home, it's not going to help if somebody comes in and steals everything or a fire happens or something along those lines, which is why cloud storage is such a tempting solution for so many of us. The problem is the security out there and the features vary greatly amongst these. And the easiest way to do this is really to create a spreadsheet, even though that's boring. You're like, hey, I come here not to feel like I'm at work. And I'm sorry that I had to use the spreadsheet, but it's the best way to really emphasize the differences between these products. And what I did is I started first with the most popular products out there. So we have Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, Amazon Cloud, and Carbonite. Now, as always, are there other options out there? Of course. And if you feel like one would certainly break the barrier of these ones that I selected, then leave it in the comments below and I will definitely check it out. But these are the ones that I found that are the most popular. And then I have another tab at the bottom, which is encryption centric. And I wanted that for my very geeky fan following that really wants to focus solely on security and maybe a little more willing to have some inconveniences. And we'll talk about those products as well. And I'll also discuss another solution that you can kind of pair with some of these to really make any of them a lot more secure. But let's get started. So across the board, the first line we have here is free storage. So this is really just a matter of, do you want to be able to test this product for free? And a lot of them have trials and things like that. And some of them give you free storage so that up to, say, 2 or 5 gigabytes along those lines, you can utilize the service and see if it's something you like, which is a nice option to have. Now, every one of these services have free but Carbonite. So that's why Carbonite is in red there. They do not have a free space that they give you to try out their service. With that being said, free is one of those words that's becoming a bad word in the security privacy realm, just because a lot of people get excited about Google or any other company saying, hey, you can use our email for free, or you can use, our social media for free and all this. And it's just wonderful. These big giant companies create billion-dollar server farms and give it to us for free. But it's kind of like your grandma or your mom or your family used to tell you, there's no such thing as free. And it could not be a better saying than today than it ever was, because there are so many things that we're tempted to say are free and they're not free at all. They are making money off of you through advertising and through collecting your data and selling that data, and potentially taking information, very personal information about you, and selling that off, or keeping it internally to target ad you, to do targeted ads and that type of thing. And of course, there's all kinds of issues with that. But we won't go down that rabbit's hole today, because I've discussed that enough in other videos that I have. But that's why it's important. So the fact that Carbonite doesn't offer something for free here is red, only because of the fact that they don't give you any way to trial it. I don't mind that they want you to pay for a service at all. In fact, I prefer to pay, because I don't want to have your service for free and then you utilizing all of my information, pictures, everything else to build profiles on me. The next one is phone app. Do they have a phone app for their application? Across the board, all of them do have a phone application that you can use for their device, so that you can access some of your files and things from there. Although There's another area down here, probably should have been moved up, but mobile photo backup, which would go along with that app. So a lot of people want one of these services to back up their device photos and information because your phone has limited memory, especially if you're on like an iPhone. We know they're so far behind in the storage world as far as still giving you 16 gigabytes of space and things on their phones, which is just ridiculous in this day and age, and you have no expansion slot for it. So because of that, you either buy the iCloud service, which is very expensive, or you can get one of these other services that you can simply upload your photos to, and you can set them up within the apps. So as far as mobile backup, Dropbox has that option. It's probably one of the best known for that. Google Drive has that option. OneDrive has that option. Amazon Cloud. And Carbonite has that option as well, but only for Android. So iOS users are out of luck. The next area I wanted to go into is kind of a topic, a heading is security. So HTTPS, yes, across the board. Encryption, all of them are using at least 128-bit as far as Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneDrive. Amazon Cloud, I think, is using 128-bit encryption. Maybe they're using more. I don't know. Their site was very, very cryptic when it came to security, which was really disappointing. And Amazon's kind of been disappointing to me in this privacy realm altogether. You know, they removed the encryption from their Kindle devices, and then everyone kind of raised all kinds of cane, and so they put it back. But I don't know. They just, for a service as big as Amazon Cloud, I know a lot of big companies host through them, you would think they'd have some more information. And maybe if you're doing business stuff, they do. But it certainly wasn't very easy for me to find, easy enough that I could answer it definitively. But I assume they utilize some type of 128-bit encryption in the transfer of the files. And Carbonite uses a 128-bit to 256-bit. So there was a range there, which is about the same as Dropbox. Now, the 128-bit and 256-bit, you're going to need a supercomputer to really break into any of those. Whether you're doing 128-bit or 256, obviously more is better, right? But it could be kind of in that overkill realm. But it just depends on what you're trying to store in things. But if we're talking about keeping photos and that type of stuff as a keepsake, if you're talking about super high-end business files, again, you may want to go with a completely different encryption option, which I'll discuss, because this is just encrypting it between the two devices as you're transferring it. It's not staying encrypted on their servers necessarily. So the next section is two-step authentication, and all of them have that, and that's a nice security benefit to help folks from accessing your data. And the next one I created was prior data breaches, and what I wanted to do here is emphasize if these services have been able to keep the hackers and others trying to break in and steal data out of their system. And Dropbox has had a prior data breach. I believe it was an employee-based breach back in 2011 or 13, something along those lines. And so it wasn't a direct attack within their server or where the personal files and everything are stored. They basically were able to get users' information by hacking into a employee's device. So this is kind of along the realms, and I don't know the whole story of maybe a social hack where somebody was able to acquire passwords and or lower security on the employee side. I would assume they would have fixed that, but I don't work for them, so I don't know. But I assume they would have fixed that by now, and certainly shows and emphasizes the importance of security being a multifaceted implementation, as I've mentioned before, because just having great security on your server is one thing. If your employees aren't being careful with that, then you have a whole nother facet there. Google Drive has only had phishing attacks, so that's where they basically send fake emails out, try to get people to click on links and enter their passwords and information. And because your Gmail is linked to your Google Drive account and all their other services, it creates this really big security hole. Because when you it's nice to be able to sign into their service with one sign-on and be able to access so much. But the downside of that is if a hacker gets that, they can access so much. They can get all of your files, photos, information, emails, and we send everything through email. So that's a big deal. So Google has been attacked by phishing attacks, not a direct attack on their servers that I could find. OneDrive has not had any attacks that I was able to find that have made any headlines for that matter. Amazon Cloud was reportedly or allegedly compromised by academically. So a college or university said that they had found a loophole and could basically compromise Amazon's cloud service. I believe that's been patched up to this point, and that never went anywhere. So nobody's data was ever hurt with that. It was just more of saying, look, we can do this. There's a security hole there. And then Carbonite, they had a loss of data, not a hack. They had a loss of data of about 7,500 customers where I think they were doing some server moves or something, and they lost their customers' data. And allegedly, they had sent advertising to their users directly from a third-party advertising company, which is in direct conflict with their terms of service or privacy rules that they state. Again, I say allegedly because I don't know all the details behind it, but there are a couple of user experiences that discuss it, and they also show some responses from Carbonite on that. Supposedly, that, of course, has been addressed. It certainly raises concerns that they would ever send a list to a third-party advertiser of their current customers, but it's not like their data or your files or photos or anything like that was ever at risk. It was simply your personal information they would use for advertising. But definitely something to keep in mind there. As far as data privacy goes, this is really where these rankings start to break apart. And when you look at Dropbox, they basically, in their terms of service, will collect metadata. They will turn your data over for legal obligations, and they have some super user employees that have access to everything. So not Fort Knox by any means, but not anywhere near, which is why it's in yellow, as bad as Google Drive, OneDrive, and Amazon Cloud. Google Drive collects metadata, login, location, browser history, cookies for collect information for marketing on what you're storing, distribution rights on what you put on their site. So they basically claim rights to all your photos and everything to be able to potentially use it. And of course, if the government comes to them and says we have a court order, legal obligations, they will turn your data over. It's not a really solid privacy policy at all. And that's pretty much, unfortunately, as much as I love Google, one of the areas that they really lack in. And OneDrive is a little better in that they do data scanning, captures user interactions with their services, but they do not sell this to ads, but they do collect data from third parties as well, maybe Google, maybe somebody else, to create profiles on you. So they're not using your information directly for that purpose, but they may get your basic information and then get all this information from all these other third-party companies that have stored all this on you, and they're building this gigantic profile on you. And now you can kind of see the big issue with the security thing. All these companies combined together have so much information on you. They know you more than your spouses do. And then the next service we'll talk about is Amazon Cloud. Again, Amazon has not such a great record. I love Amazon to death, but in a privacy spectrum and for their other services, they've been a very big disappointment. They collect metadata, login, location, browser history, cookies, marketing, distribution rights, legal obligations, pretty much the same as Google Drive. And Carbonite is the only one in green here. Because they have private key encryption. And what that allows you to do is create a encryption of the files that you're storing on Carbonite. The Carbonite does not have the password to decrypt. Therefore, if the NSA or somebody came to them, they could not hand over that password because they don't hold it. They don't own it. And they warn you exclusively that if you lose that password, we can't help you. We're not going to be able to get in there. So otherwise, though, if you don't turn on the private key encryption option, they have the legal obligations and, of course, some limited employee access. Now, I want to stop there to talk about something else. So any of these services, before we finish, there is an option called Boxcryptor. And Boxcryptor is a very cool, and it will have its own video, and I'll show it to you, very cool encryption system that allows you to encrypt the files before you send it to any of these services. And because of that, any of these things here that we talked about, metadata, all of that stuff, they could still get logins, locations, cookies, obviously through your browser if you're not using firewalls and VPNs and have your browser settings set up correctly. But as far as using the actual information that you're storing on their site, they could not see it because you're encrypting it through that box cryptor, and then you're sending it over there. So they have no access to it. And that is a really good option for these. Let's continue. File deletion recovery. So if you delete a file, can you recover it? Which is important for a lot of folks. Sometimes you delete something and realize later, oh my gosh, I need that back. Dropbox, you have 30-day deletion history. Plus, if you want to do an add-on, you can have unlimited recovery, which is kind of cool. Google Drive, yes, but no defined period of time that I was able to find. I'd assume it's 30, 60 days, which seems pretty standard across the board. OneDrive, they have a recycle bin option. So kind of yes. If you delete the bin from the bin, though, there's no option to recover it. And I think it stays 30 days within the recycling bin or until that space gets full. Amazon Cloud, I don't know. I couldn't find anything. Again, very cryptic on their site about this information. And then Carbonite coming in green here at 90 days. So you have the longest option here to restore old files with Carbonite. And our next section is real-time collaboration. So a lot of people like to use Google Drive or these other services to collaborate. I know businesses that are using Google Drive to collect information on their customers so they can ship them things when they're buying through like Facebook Live or Periscope or those type of things, which is kind of scary, all your customer information out there on a very insecure Google Drive. But anyways, that's besides the point. A lot of people like to do the collaboration, or if you're working on projects, teams, that type of thing. And Dropbox offers real-time collaboration. So does Google Drive, OneDrive. Amazon Cloud Drive does allow it via WorkDocs, I guess, application or setup. And Carbonite does not currently have that I could find any real-time collaboration options. Mobile photo backup we touched on already, and then drive mirroring, so the ability to mirror your entire hard drive if you were to lose it. All the services except for Carbonite do not offer it. Carbonite's the only one that offers that full entire hard drive backup, and you can also set it up to do an external hard drives as well, so that was pretty cool. And here comes your cost. So 2 gigabytes free on Dropbox, 1 terabyte, $9.99. Unlimited for $15 per user per month. So pretty strong price offering from Dropbox. Google Drive is 15 gigabytes free, 100 gigabytes for $1.99 a month, which is pretty good, and 1 terabyte for $9.99 a month. But if you look at all of these services here, the fact that Google Drive's kind of security or lack thereof with the data privacy and all the information they're collecting, Google Drive is automatically off my list. This is just my opinion, but I wouldn't use them. OneDrive, unless you're going to use Box Cryptor. And let me say that for all of these. If you're not going to use Box Cryptor, I'm going to tell you which one I will choose. If you use Box Cryptor, use the one that's the best price. And I say that because OneDrive, if you already have an Office 365 subscription, OneDrive automatically gives you, I think it's 1,000 gigabytes or something. So you automatically get that storage space free. Why not use it? It's not necessarily extremely safe, so the best thing you could do is use Box Cryptor, encrypt those files before you upload them into OneDrive, and you'll be good to go. So that's just an option for you there. But as far as if you don't have any of these services that you're paying for and you're going to pay for one, Google Drive's off, OneDrive is off, Amazon Cloud is off, even though 5 gigabyte, they have one of the best offerings of $59.99 unlimited. Again, if you use Box Cryptor, that may be your best value. If you're not, their security or lack thereof takes them out of it. And Carbonite, I would say between Carbonite and Dropbox are your two best options if you're going to pay for a service and not use Box Cryptor. If you use Box Cryptor, then just go with the cheapest one here or the one that you've already utilized. Unless one of these like folder syncs or mobile photo backups are very important to you, then you may have to decide between Dropbox and Carbonite based on the phone you have for backing those up. So that gives you a really good idea of the services and their differences. But I do want to talk about the encryption-centric cloud storage. So there are services that basically are fully encrypted that they don't have the keys to, that are more private privacy based than some of the more mainstream ones. And the bigger of those two companies are Spider Oak and Treseret. There are others out there. These are the ones I chose because after researching, looking at their sites, comparing the information, they seem the most legitimate to me out there. Unlike these other companies that have a lot of branding and names and money and all of that, Spider Oak and Treseret are probably the highest branded, been around the longest out there for this type of service, cloud service. However, if there are other ones out there that you want me to check out, of course, leave them in the comments below. So free storage, yes, on Spider Oak. Treseret, you get a 14-day trial only. Both of them have iOS and Android apps and some Windows. HTTPS, of course, encryption, yes, and it's encrypted locally. So kind of like Boxcryptor, they encrypt the files locally for you. Two-step authentication is not yet available on Spider Oak, which I thought was very, very weird. And Treseret does have that already enabled. Prior data breaches, I could not find anything on either of those services. And in fact, Treseret constantly offers $50,000 bounties to break in at certain periods of time. They'll open it up for a couple of months and see if anybody can break in. And they open that up 238 countries and universities, and it's $50,000 prize, and nobody's broken into it yet. So they definitely do that. But the one thing I want to mention about this encryption here is it's not open source encryption. So nobody knows how it works. For all you know, there could be code in there written so that the NSA has a backdoor. There's nothing to tell you one way or another. And that's the biggest problem with these cloud services that are encryption centric in my mind, is the encryption technology they're using isn't open for folks to look at the code and see if there are loopholes, problems that need to be patched. Everything's kind of handled internally with the company. And that's why if I'm going to recommend a service, it's going to be use Boxcryptor with another storage solution. Two-step authentications not yet available. I already mentioned that. Prior data breaches, no. Data privacy, yes, across the board. Server location, Spider Oak is in the US. Treseret is in EU. Specifically, I think they're in Swiss. They're under Swiss law. So, you know, they have a lot more privacy-centric laws than, say, the United States has. So take that for what it is. File deletion recovery, limited recycle bin-like function for Spider Oak, and limited version history for Treseret. Real-time collaboration, yes, on both of those. Folder sync is limited to a high folder on Spider Oak, and yes, on Treseret. Mobile uploads, no across the board. Drive mirroring, no, although some of the sites for Spider Oak kind of confused me, because in one area it was like, yeah, we do, and then another area of their site said, no, we don't. So I think it's a feature that may be coming that they're trying to add on, but I would leave that. That's why I kind of have question marks in there. And then the cost, $10 per month for 100 gigabytes. So these are a lot more expensive services. And Spider Oak's more user and business centric, whereas Treseret seems to be solely business based with their plans alone at $12.50 a month for 100 gigabytes, $15 per month per user for 1,000 gigabytes. So again, my suggestion is use Boxcryptor. I will do a separate video on Boxcryptor so you can see how that works, and then you can use any of these services you want that are the cheapest. Otherwise, Dropbox or Carbonite are probably your best options in there, followed by Onedrive, and then Amazon Cloud and Google Drive. You might as well just throw your information out there in the public for everybody to see. So that's my review. That's my feelings on these sites. That's the research that I've done. If you have a different view, if you think there's a better way to be more secure with your files on the cloud, then let me know. As always, thank you so much for the subscriptions and for the thumbs up on my videos. You guys have been so supportive, and I really appreciate it. It means a ton to me. Everybody hitting that subscribe button, giving me some love. I love doing these videos. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you soon.